That was great. I wanted to share a few words of Torah, and it begins with, I was a participant in an Institute for Jewish Spirituality that I actually know Reb Ruthie participated in, and it was a wonderful experience. It was a 2-year program, and we got to go on retreat for a week. And we got to have silence, and we got to have meditation, and we got to do yoga, and we got to do study of Hasidic texts. It was like a rabbi's nirvana. And when we finished, one of my colleagues said, "This has been so fabulous. I mean, this has transformed my life. This has just been so great. It has transformed my life. How on earth am I ever going to convey this to my wife? How on earth am I ever going to convey this to my wife?" And a very wise teacher looked at him and said, "Well, for starters, when you get home, why don't you thank her for giving you the time so that you could go away for a week? And then maybe you might think about making dinner for the family, since she's been doing that all week with the 3 children. And finally, maybe you might encourage to have a girls' night where you look after the kids for the evening, since she's been doing that the whole week. And then perhaps she'll know that you really were transformed by this experience." Our parsha this week says, "Kadosh tihiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai," "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." And holiness is it's an interesting concept in Judaism. For many of us, when we think of holiness, we think of imitato Dei, to copy the ways of God. And in Judaism, holiness also has an understanding of being separate and apart. We call Shabbat Kadosh. When we get married, it's called Kiddushin. And there's a sense of being separate and apart. And it's during those times of being separate and apart that I would suggest that we do the soul refinement work that each of us needs to do to be the soul and the people who we are meant to be and can be. And for some of us, that's through meditation. It could be through musar, the practice of refining one's midot. It could be yoga. It could be Torah study. It could be chanting. But that is the work we do on ourselves. But the tradition is very clear that it doesn't end there. You see, this week's parsha, after it says, "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy," has an incredibly long, specific list of all the things that holiness entails, from how we conduct business, to how we will treat the immigrant, to how you will treat the socioeconomically distressed. My favorite is that when you see a person with white hair, you're supposed to stand up and pay them kavod. That's how we show respect. And so the tradition is very clear that we are holy and do this work in order that we may create a world filled with justice and mercy and compassion. And I wanted to share a brief story at how this relates, which is the story of a rabbi and a soap maker. There aren't that many stories in the tradition of rabbis and soap makers, so I really like this one. And this rabbi and soap maker went on a stroll together. And as they walked along, the soap maker challenged the rabbi. And the soap maker said, "What good is this Torah?" I mean, after more than 1,000 years of teaching about honesty, truth, loving kindness, justice, and peace, the world is still full of troubles, of hatred, of misery. Like a good rabbi, he was quiet. Not typical, but good. And then they came upon a child who was playing in the mud, and the child was covered with dirt and grime all over. And the rabbi turned to the soap maker, and the rabbi said, "What good is soap? With all the soap that exists, this child is still filthy." But Rabbi, that was the rabbi who said that, and he said, "But Rabbi, soap can't do any good unless we use it. Soap can't do any good unless we use it." And the rabbi replied, "So it is with Torah. We must apply its words to our lives." And so I really believe very deeply the work that we are called upon to do as a holy community is to do the tikkun halev, the repair of our own hearts, but we do that in service to the world around us to make that world more safe and just. And I pray that each of us will continue to do that work, and each of us will encourage and support one another in doing that work. Amen.